Chapter 3. Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and put a fence around it. You may be shut out from engaging in business in certain fields, but there are always other channels open to you. It might be hard for you to get control of one of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of room for enterprise, and it will be only a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air become great industries. And in all their branches, they will give employment to hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation, instead of competing with J. Hill and others, for a chance in the steam railway world? It's quite true that if you're a workman employed by the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant where you work. But it's also true that if you begin to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. You could buy a farm of 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuffs. There is great opportunity right now for those who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate them intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say, "It's impossible for me to get land," but I am going to prove to you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you begin to act in a certain way. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution we've reached. At present, in America, it is setting toward agriculture and allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the business person who supplies the farmer, more than it is before the one who supplies the factory worker. And it is open before the professional man who serves the farmer, more than it is before the one who serves the working class. There is abundance of opportunity for the man who goes with the tide rather than trying to swim against it. So, the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. They are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground down by the trusts or combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If the workers of America chose to, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries. They could establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws that favor the development of such industries. And in a few years, they could take peaceable possession of the industrial field. The working class may become the master class whenever they begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. But the individual worker is not held down by the ignorance or mental sloth of his class. He can rise with the tide of opportunity toward riches, and this book will tell him how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol in Washington could be built for every family on Earth using only the building material found in the United States. And under intensive cultivation, this country could produce enough wool, cotton, linen, and silk to clothe every person in the world finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory. It could also produce enough food to feed them all, luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and old ones are dissolving, but all are simply shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but not all of it was used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated with this original substance, the raw material of all things. 10,000 times as much as has already been made could still be made. And even then, we would not exhaust the supply of universal raw material. No man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor, or because there is not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When soil is depleted so that crops and clothing materials can no longer grow, it will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver have been dug from the earth. If mankind is still in a stage of social development where it needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him go without any good thing. This is true collectively. The human race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things that makes the individual rich. Formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive, always impelled toward more life. It is the natural and inherent impulse of life to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and the nature of consciousness to expand and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its driving motive is increase. For this cause, everything that can possibly support life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack, unless God contradicts himself and nullifies his own works. You are not kept poor by a lack of supply. In fact, as I'll demonstrate shortly, even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman, who will act and think in a certain way.